They say knowledge is power. But nobody tells you what happens when power finally meets someone it cannot control. Bethany was invisible to the world. A quiet librarian. A forgotten genius. A woman whose greatest battles were fought between pages of ancient books. Until the night a mafia boss came to collect her brother's debt and froze when she spoke a language dead for 2,000 years. This is the story of how the most dangerous man in the city became obsessed with the one woman who was never afraid of his mind. Beth loved places where voices stayed low. The historical archives sat at the back of the city library, untouched by crowds. Dust floated through warm light, settling on shelves filled with forgotten civilizations. Here, Beth mattered. Not because of beauty, not because of wealth, but because she understood things others ignored. Ancient Greek, Latin, classical philosophy. Languages most people called useless. Languages that made her feel powerful in a world that rarely noticed her. She spent her days restoring meaning to texts written centuries before her existence, never realizing her own life was about to become a story no historian could predict. The knock on her apartment door came just after sunset. But before that came Jalen. Her younger brother stumbled inside, panic written across his face. Beth knew instantly something was wrong. Jalen rarely looked afraid. When he finally confessed, the words came out broken and rushed. Gambling. Debt. Dangerous people. And then the number. $50,000. Beth felt fear climb her spine, but years of protecting him forced calm into her voice. She told him they would fix it, even though she had no idea how, because that was her role. She fixed impossible things. 3 heavy hits shook the door. Jalen froze. Beth opened it. 2 men filled the hallway, smiling in ways that felt like threats. They mocked her immediately. The glasses. The books. The quiet voice. They assumed weakness. Most people did. When one shoved Jalen back, Beth stepped forward without thinking. Her heart raced violently, but her voice stayed steady. She told them they would be paid. And when they hinted at hurting her brother, she said 3 words that surprised even herself. You don't touch him. The men laughed. 48 hours. Then they left. Only after the door closed did her hands begin to shake. Across the city, Elias Volkov listened to the report. Most debts never reached his attention. But this one did. Because the sister had not begged. She had stood still. Fearless composure fascinated him. Curiosity was dangerous for a man like Elias. Yet before midnight, he decided to see her himself. Beth opened her door again later that night. This time only one man stood there. Tall. Perfectly composed. Eyes calm enough to feel dangerous. He spoke her name like he already owned the answer. When he stepped inside, the room seemed smaller around him. He explained the debt calmly. No threats. No shouting. Just certainty. And somehow that felt worse. Elias noticed the book first. Plato's Republic. He picked it up with faint amusement and began explaining philosophy. Confidently, intelligently, but incorrectly. Beth tried to stay silent. Correcting a mafia boss was not survival instinct. But accuracy pulled at her stronger than fear. So she spoke. Softly. She explained he misunderstood Plato's argument. He challenged her. And then, without thinking, she answered in ancient Greek. Fluent. Effortless. The ancient language filled the apartment like a spell awakening. She translated calmly, explaining meaning he had never considered. When she finished, silence swallowed the room. Elias Volkov froze. For the first time in years, he was not the smartest person present. Shock turned slowly into fascination. He asked why someone like her worked as a librarian. Beth answered quietly. Knowledge doesn't need permission to exist. And in that moment, his interest became obsession. He forgave the debt instantly. Relief flooded Jalen's face. Beth felt only suspicion. Nothing from powerful men came free. When she asked what he wanted, Elias answered simply. Her mind. She would work for him, translating documents no one else could understand. Not forced, but unavoidable. She accepted with dignity intact. Neither realized they had just rewritten both their lives. The penthouse overlooked the entire city. Beth felt small there at first, but work grounded her. And Elias watched. He noticed everything. How she forgot fear when focused. How passion replaced shyness when discussing ideas. How she never tried to impress him. Days turned into weeks. Small kindnesses appeared. Coffee exactly how she liked it. Rare books waiting at her desk. Security escorts she never requested. Protection disguised as practicality. One evening she asked why he treated her differently. He answered honestly. She was the only person who spoke to him without fear. And the only one who wanted nothing from him. That answer lingered between them long after the conversation ended. Danger returned suddenly. A rival family targeted her to weaken Elias. The attack happened fast, hands grabbing, panic rising. And then violence erupted. Black cars blocked the street. Gunshots echoed. Chaos ended as quickly as it began. Elias arrived seconds later, fury barely contained. He pulled her into his arms immediately, checking for injuries with shaking hands. His calm mask was gone. What remained was something far more terrifying. Devotion. Orders followed quietly. Merciless consequences ensured no one would try again. And Beth understood something profound. The world feared him, but with her, he was careful. The city was quiet after midnight. From the penthouse windows, lights stretched endlessly across the skyline, glowing like distant stars trapped beneath glass. Inside, the world felt strangely still, as if even time itself understood something important had changed. Beth stood near the window, her arms wrapped loosely around herself, watching reflections move across the glass. Hours had passed since the attack. Since she had seen the side of Elias Volkov the world whispered about in fear. The ruthless protector. The man capable of terrifying violence. And yet, what stayed with her wasn't the danger. It was the way his hands had trembled when he checked if she was hurt. Behind her, Elias stood silently, giving her space the way he always did when emotions grew too heavy for words. He had changed out of his blood-stained jacket, but tension still lived in the rigid line of his shoulders. He looked like a man waiting for judgment. Finally, Beth turned. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence between them felt alive, full of everything they had not yet said. "I saw who you are tonight," she said softly. Elias didn't defend himself. Didn't explain. He only nodded once. Yes. No excuses. No lies. Just truth. She walked closer, slow enough that he could step away if he wanted. He didn't. "I should be afraid of you," she continued. A faint shadow crossed his expression. "You should," he replied quietly. "My world destroys things that come too close." There was no pride in his voice, only certainty, and beneath it, regret. Beth studied him carefully, realizing something she had missed before. Elias Volkov was not afraid of enemies. He was afraid of hurting her. The realization softened something deep inside her chest. "You didn't destroy me," she whispered. His jaw tightened slightly. "Not yet." The words carried pain so honest it stole her breath. For the first time since meeting him, she saw uncertainty in his eyes, not weakness, but vulnerability carefully hidden from everyone else. He stepped back slightly, as if preparing to release her. "I will end your contract," he said quietly. "Your brother's debt is gone. You are free to leave this world." The words should have felt like relief. Instead, they felt like loss. Beth felt her heartbeat quicken. He was letting her go, not because he wanted to, because he believed loving her meant setting her free from danger. She realized then that every act of protection he had shown, the escorts, the careful distance, the restraint, had never been possession. It had been respect. Choice. And suddenly, she understood something undeniable. She didn't want safety without him. She crossed the remaining distance between them, close enough now to see exhaustion behind his composure, close enough to feel the warmth he always kept carefully controlled. "You never asked what I want," she said gently. His eyes lifted to hers, cautious. "What do you want, Bethany?" Her voice softened, but never wavered. "I want the truth." A long pause followed. Then Elias exhaled slowly, as if surrendering a secret he had guarded his entire life. "The truth," he said, "is that I've faced men who wanted me dead without hesitation." His voice lowered. "But when they took you tonight, I forgot how to breathe." The confession settled between them like something sacred. "I built an empire on control," he continued quietly. "And you are the only thing I cannot control, nor do I wish to." His hand lifted slightly, hesitating before touching her cheek, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. His fingers brushed her skin gently, reverently, as if she were something fragile despite knowing her strength. "You challenge me," he said. "You see me, not the power, not the fear, just me." Beth felt warmth spread through her chest. All her life, she had felt overlooked. Too quiet. Too intellectual. Too ordinary. Yet this powerful man looked at her as if she were extraordinary. She smiled faintly. "You froze when I corrected your Plato quote," she teased softly. A rare laugh escaped him. Quiet, genuine, unguarded. "I have survived assassination attempts without blinking," he admitted. "But you speaking ancient Greek was far more terrifying." The tension between them softened into warmth, into intimacy, into something fragile and new. She reached for his hand. His fingers tightened instantly around hers, instinctively protective, as if anchoring himself. "I choose this," she said. His expression stilled. "You understand what that means?" "Yes." Danger. Complexity. A life far from ordinary. She understood all of it, and chose him anyway. "I choose you," she finished. For the first time since she met him, Elias Volkov looked undone. Not powerful. Not feared. Simply overwhelmed. He pulled her gently into his arms, careful, always careful, as though she were both his greatest strength and greatest vulnerability. She rested against him, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat.
Strong, certain, safe.
Outside, the city continued endlessly, unaware that something rare had just formed above it. Not a transaction, not a debt, but a partnership born from understanding. A dangerous man softened by intellect. A quiet woman discovering her strength was never hidden at all. And in that quiet embrace, Beth realized the truth. The debt that brought them together had never been financial. It had been emotional. Two lonely souls recognizing themselves in each other. Power meeting its equal. And for the first time in both their lives, neither of them felt alone. Some love stories begin with fate. Others begin with choice. Theirs began with a debt and ended with devotion. Because sometimes the safest place in the world is the arms of the person everyone else fears.